My brother said, the partnership is over. Expect to hear from my attorney. So I pulled my name off the hotel loan, thanks to a clause he never read. Now he owns 100% of the debt, and I own the silence. I still remember the voicemail. No hesitation, no pleasantries, just Nathan's voice, flat and cold as steel. The partnership is over. Expect to hear from my attorney. That was it. 10 years of blood, sweat, and endless compromise, dismissed in one sentence. My name is Oliver Bennett. I'm 38 years old, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Or at least, I used to. These days, I mostly drift between hotel rooms and meetings across the country ever since my brother and I opened our boutique hotel chain. Or rather, since I did. I stood in my kitchen, coffee in hand, listening to the voicemail again just to make sure I hadn't misheard. But no, it was exactly as it sounded. Cold. Final. I didn't yell. I didn't text him. I didn't even call my lawyer right away. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the business loan documents. The one for $750,000 we had jointly signed 3 years ago to launch our second location in Asheville. Click. Click. I removed my name. It was done in under 10 minutes. I left a short message on Nathan's phone. Just 2 words. Understood. That was it. No emotion. No panic. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at a table I built with my own hands. If he wanted to sever the partnership, he could keep the consequences. 2 days passed. Then, on the 3rd day, my phone practically exploded. 67 missed calls. I remember the exact number because it sat there on my screen like a screen. Nathan. Our mom. Even Nathan's girlfriend, Callie. They had all called, some of them multiple times. The voicemails weren't cold anymore. They were frantic. Callie's was just a string of panicked, "Can you please talk to us?" messages. My mother started out passive-aggressive, then shifted into tearful. But the one that stood out came from someone I didn't expect, Nathan's lawyer. His voice was tight, shaky. "Oliver, please. I think there's been a serious misunderstanding. We need to resolve this before it escalates." But there was no misunderstanding. Nathan had made himself clear. He wanted out. So I gave him what he wanted, with interest. What he hadn't realized was that, once I removed my name from the loan, the full debt fell on him. I had taken out a clause months ago that allowed me to exit cleanly, thanks to a quiet buyout amendment I had drafted and signed after our last big fight. He hadn't bothered to read it. I guess that's the problem with people like Nathan. They assume they're the smartest person in the room, right until the room catches fire. So now the boutique hotel in Asheville was entirely in his name. The property loan? His. The payroll taxes? His. The liability insurance, the suppliers, the bookings, the refunds, all his. And me? I was already working on a new project. Quietly, alone. No brother. No drama. Just clarity. I watched the phone light up again, Nathan, this time, and I let it ring until it stopped. I'd already said everything I needed to. 3 weeks before the voicemail, I sat across from Nathan and our mother at that awful Italian place they always picked. The kind where the breadsticks were rock hard and the pasta sauce came from a can, but they insisted it had charm. I remember the smell, garlic, floor cleaner, and something burnt. I remember because that night burned itself into my memory. Nathan was nursing a glass of overpriced red wine and tapping something on his phone. Our mother, always composed and careful, wore her usual too bright lipstick and a strained smile that looked more painted than real. Callie wasn't there, thank God. But her presence lingered anyway, in the form of her Louis Vuitton bag on the seat beside Nathan and the way he mentioned her in nearly every other sentence. I was trying to keep the conversation light. I'd even picked up the check early, before we ordered, a trick I'd learned to avoid the awkward moment when Nathan made a show of pretending to reach for his wallet. "So," I said, cutting into my salad, "I got the new quarterly numbers from the Atlanta property. We're up 20% over last year." Nathan didn't look up, just muttered, "Good." That was the tone of the whole dinner. Dismissive. Disconnected. Then came the bomb. Our mother took a dainty sip of her wine, then set her glass down and said, "So, about the family trip this year." I raised an eyebrow. "Tuscany, right? That's still happening." Nathan finally looked up, but not at me. He looked at Mom and nodded. "We've made some adjustments," she said delicately. "The villa we booked has limited space. It'll be me, Nathan, Callie, and a few others. Just tight quarters this time." I blinked. "Sorry, a few others? Who exactly is going?" She didn't answer right away. Nathan did. "Not you, if that's what you're getting at." I just stared at him. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He shrugged. "You live in that downtown apartment with no guest space. You're always holed up working. We figured you'd be too busy to enjoy it anyway." I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there, feeling something shift under my ribs. "But I paid part of the mortgage on that place," I said. "The one in Siena. I remember wiring the deposit." "Yeah," Nathan said, rolling his eyes. "And you live like you're broke. Paying rent on a 2-bedroom downtown, when you could have bought a place years ago. You don't exactly scream family vacation energy. Excuse me, I said, sharper than I meant to. He leaned back, smirking like he'd won something. Our mother stepped in then, her voice soft and falsely sweet. Let's not make this a thing, darling. It's just logistics. You know how complicated planning can be. We love you, of course we do. But she didn't look me in the eye. The rest of the meal was a blur. Nathan laughed too loudly at his own jokes. Our mother kept acting like nothing was wrong. I sat there chewing rubbery chicken, feeling like someone had just unplugged me from my own family. I paid the bill, of course. After dinner, I walked home instead of calling a car. The night was humid and still. The kind of night that clings to your skin and makes you think too hard. I thought about the checks I'd written over the years. The times I'd covered Nathan's car lease when he was between ventures. The utilities I quietly paid for our mother's condo. The months I let things slide to keep peace. And still, I wasn't worth a room in the villa I helped pay for. A few days later, the photos started popping up on social media. Callie in a white linen dress, standing on the villa's terrace, wine glass in hand. Nathan beside her, shirt unbuttoned, showing off a spray tan. Our mother, laughing with sunglasses on, captioned, "Family is everything." I wasn't tagged in a single post. But what hit hardest was one particular shot. A group photo, sunset in the background. Callie's arm draped around Nathan. Our mother in the center. Everyone smiling like they were born to be there. I stared at it on my phone, still in bed, the early morning light cutting through my blinds. That was the moment I stopped wondering if I'd misunderstood. I hadn't. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had built a life where I was useful, but invisible. And that was the moment something inside me shifted. Not rage. Not sadness. Clarity. I didn't say anything to them. No angry calls. No dramatic messages. I didn't even reply when our mother texted me a blurry photo of the Tuscan sunset with the caption, "Wish you were here." She didn't wish that. None of them did. Instead, I took a deep breath, opened my laptop, and started pulling records. First, I logged into my bank account and downloaded the last 3 years of statements. Then I filtered for any transfers to Nathan, our mother, or the business accounts tied to our boutique hotel brand. There were hundreds. Small ones, big ones, all with bland descriptions like utility support, car payment, or Nathan reimbursement. I opened a spreadsheet and started filling it in, line by line. Next, I dug into my email. Receipts from restaurants I never ate at but paid for. Designer store transactions I hadn't remembered approving until I saw Nathan's name in the memo field. Emergency Venmo requests that showed up on Sundays with words like urgent or family thing attached. The more I added, the clearer it became. This wasn't generosity. This was extraction. I found the receipt from the time Nathan had needed help covering Callie's birthday weekend in Napa. Nearly $4,000, billed to my card, with a follow-up text. "Appreciate it, man. I'll cover you next time." There was never a next time. Another line item, a $1,200 payment for our mother's dental procedure, which I later found out was entirely cosmetic. I had told myself it was necessary, that she deserved to feel good about herself. But then I remembered the way she had smiled at me across that dinner table and said I'd understand why I wasn't going to Tuscany. I kept going. Each entry in that spreadsheet was a little wound I hadn't noticed while it bled. But now, seeing it all laid out in one place, it felt like I'd been quietly hemorrhaging for years, emotionally and financially. When I hit the $20,000 mark, I paused. And then I kept going. By the time I finished that night, the total was over $82,000. $82,000 of gaslighting, manipulation, and polite betrayal. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I deleted their contact threads. Every one of them. I archived our group chats. Blocked notifications from our mother, Nathan, and Callie. Not blocked, just silenced. I wanted them to keep talking to empty space for a while. I cleared out my voicemail inbox. Then I went into the business loan portal and downloaded a copy of the updated terms. My exit clause had been formalized months ago, notarized, time-stamped, and tucked away like insurance. I smiled, knowing I wouldn't need to fight when I walked away. I'd already made sure they couldn't drag me down with them. Then, for the first time in months, I went to bed without checking my phone. The room was quiet. The city hummed outside, but inside, it was finally still. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling. Not lonely. Not bitter. Free. That's the word that kept echoing through my head. Free. Free from pretending I didn't notice how they used me. Free from second-guessing every boundary I'd set. Free from the weight of being the one who always showed up, even when I wasn't wanted. I turned off the lamp, closed my eyes, and drifted into the deepest sleep I'd had in years. The next morning started like any other. I made coffee, checked the news, opened my laptop. But by 9:12 a.m., my phone lit up with the first missed call, Nathan. I didn't answer. Then another. Mom. Then Callie. Twice in a row. By noon, the counter on my lock screen showed 24 missed calls. And the messages, they came in waves. First, Nathan's texts. Bro, what did you do? Why is my name the only one on the hotel loan paperwork? Call me right now. This is serious, man. You're being a fing child. Then our mother. Sweetheart, I'm not sure what's going on, but Nathan is very upset. We're a family. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Let's all just talk, okay? This isn't you. Then Callie. You've got to explain what's happening. He's panicking. There's talk of default. You can't just walk away like that. But I could. And I had. By 3 p.m., I got a voicemail from Nathan's attorney. Not the sharp-voiced man from the original partnership documents, but a younger guy I recognized from one of our early consultations. He sounded frazzled. Less legal eagle, more sinking ship. Hi, Oliver. This is Greg with Colton and Gray. I think there's been a serious misunderstanding regarding the business structure. Nathan's quite alarmed, and we'd really like to avoid any legal escalation. Please give me a call at your earliest convenience so we can try to resolve this before things get messy. It was the word misunderstanding that got me. They didn't misunderstand anything. They just underestimated me. At 5 p.m., I checked Facebook out of pure curiosity. I hadn't posted in months, but I had a feeling. Sure enough, there it was. My mother had posted a vaguely poetic status. Sometimes, the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. Pray for this family. The comments were predictable. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years chimed in with concerned emojis and thinking of you replies. One even wrote, "Is this about Oliver?" I always knew he was cold. I sat back in my chair, arms folded, and stared at the screen. That was their move, reframe. Shift the story. Make me the villain. Poor Nathan, the betrayed brother. Our sweet mother, wounded and worried. And Oliver, the mysterious outsider who turned his back. I could have let it slide. I could have let them run with it. But I didn't. At 7:43 p.m., I posted a single status update. Sometimes, people call it family when they really mean freeloaders. Attached below, a folder of screenshots and payment logs. 3 years worth. $82,000 in family support. Mortgage assistance. Car leases. Private dinners I wasn't invited to. Vacations I paid for and never saw. Transparency isn't drama. It's just facts. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to. The folder was public. It was organized. Receipts, Venmo screenshots, email confirmations, timestamps. All of it. It didn't take long. 10 minutes later, my cousin Harper commented, "Wait, they told me you weren't even involved in the Tuscany trip, but you paid for the deposit?" Then another cousin chimed in. "Weren't you covering Nathan's portion of the Asheville project?" That's what I'd heard from him a while back. And then, surprisingly, Callie's sister, someone I barely knew, liked the post. By midnight, the tide had turned. Nathan deleted his profile photo. My mother made her account private. The vague sympathy statuses disappeared like spilled wine wiped off a tablecloth. For the first time, they couldn't control the story. I didn't respond to the comments. I didn't clarify. I didn't engage in petty back and forths. I just let the truth sit there. Quiet. Undeniable. The next morning, I woke up to a single message in my inbox. It was from one of Nathan's former investors, a guy who'd always been polite but distant. Read the post. Respectfully, I had no idea. If you ever start something new, keep me in mind. I'd love to be a part of it. I smiled. Let them chase narratives. I had receipts. I had peace. And finally, I had control. The cafe Nathan picked was one of those places trying too hard to feel rustic. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, waitstaff wearing denim aprons. It was neutral ground, but barely. He wanted the illusion of comfort, control. I arrived 5 minutes early. They were already seated in a booth at the back. Nathan looked like hell. Rumpled blazer, eyes dark from lack of sleep. Mom had her best pearls on, but her lipstick was uneven, like she'd rushed. Callie didn't look up from her phone. She never did. They all looked up as I approached. Nathan stood partway, as if he couldn't decide between shaking my hand or throwing the table. "Oliver," he said stiffly, like he was trying out the word for the first time. I sat across from them and didn't say a word. Mom forced a smile. "It's so good to see you, honey. We've all been so..." "Stop," I said calmly. "If we're going to talk, let's skip the part where you pretend this is anything but damage control." Her mouth snapped shut. Callie finally put her phone down. Nathan leaned forward, trying his best at the sincere act. "Look, I know things got complicated. I said some things. You did too. But we're brothers, man. We can fix this." I didn't respond. Instead, I reached into my messenger bag and pulled out a flash drive. I brought something. Nathan rolled his eyes. "Jesus, is this more receipts? You really think public shaming is the answer to everything?" I pulled out a small Bluetooth speaker, placed it on the table, and tapped play. Nathan's voice filled the booth, grainy, but unmistakably him. It was a recording from a month ago. One of the late-night voicemails he thought I hadn't saved. You don't do anything, Oliver. You think tossing money around means you're part of this? You're not. You're just a safety net. A backup plan. You don't matter unless I need you. Silence. I tapped again. A series of messages played, frantic texts, desperate pleas for emergency help that turned out to be designer shopping trips and private flights. Then I pulled out a binder, slid it across the table. Inside, every bank transaction, every signed loan document, every note proving my majority investment in the hotel properties. A clean breakdown, page by page, of exactly how much of our business was actually mine. Nathan's face turned red. Not embarrassed, furious. He flipped through the first few pages like he was hoping they'd disappear. You've been planning this, he muttered. You've been waiting for a moment to bury me. No, I said. I've been waiting for the moment you finally showed me who you were. Callie shifted in her seat. This is so dramatic, she said under her breath, but loud enough to be heard. That's when I smiled. Calm, deliberate. I'm not done. I looked toward the door. A man stepped inside, tall, sharp suit, silver hair combed back neatly. He walked slowly but with purpose, leaning on a cane he clearly didn't need. Our grandfather. Nathan's jaw dropped. Mom's eyes widened. Even Callie blinked like she was seeing a ghost. He made his way to our booth and nodded at me before sitting down beside me. Hello, children, he said. Nathan recovered first. What is this? Some kind of intervention? Grandfather ignored him. He looked at me instead. I've reviewed everything. The receipts. The documents. The recordings. He turned to Nathan. And I've also reviewed your last 3 years of business filings. Nathan stiffened. Tax-deducting personal vacations, funneling funds from the hotel accounts to your own real estate side ventures, misreporting income under my name. He raised an eyebrow. You really thought no one would check? I didn't, Nathan started. You did, grandfather interrupted. And now, it's done. Mom reached out, panic in her voice. Dad, this doesn't have to be like this. He turned his gaze to her. Cold. I trusted you to be the compass in this family. But you enabled him. You watched him bleed Oliver dry and called it normal. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Callie stood up, grabbing her back. This is insane. I'm not part of this family mess. Grandfather nodded politely. Good. Then leave. And she did, without looking back. The silence that followed felt like a collapsed building, thick, dusty, final. Grandfather reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. I updated the trust, he said. Oliver is now the sole beneficiary. Effective immediately. Nathan shot up. You're cutting me out? No, grandfather said. You cut yourself out the moment you weaponized your brother's loyalty and turned it into a monthly allowance. Mom put her head in her hands. Nathan pointed at me. You think you won, huh? No, I said. I think I survived. And I meant it. That was the moment I knew, whatever came next, I would face it on my own terms. I had nothing left to give them. And finally, they had nothing left to take. We didn't linger in the cafe after that. Nathan was still standing, jaw clenched, as if holding back one last desperate insult. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes, her eyes darting between me and grandfather like she was silently begging us to pretend none of this had happened. But we didn't. We just stood up. Grandfather's cane clicked softly against the floor as we made our way toward the door. For a moment, I glanced back. Nathan hadn't moved. His hands were balled into fists, knuckles white. Our mother reached out to him like she could fix it all with a pat on the shoulder. But he didn't react. He was staring at the folder I'd left on the table, the one with his lies, debts, and dependencies all laid bare. Outside, the late afternoon light hit different. Warm, but not heavy. I took a deep breath for the first time in what felt like years. Grandfather walked beside me, his pace slower now. He didn't speak for a while, and I didn't rush him. There was no need. For once, we had time. We reached the corner, just past the cafe's patio. He stopped, adjusted his collar, and looked at me the way he used to when I was a kid and needed to hear the truth, not the sugar-coated version. I watched this family rot from the inside for a long time, he said. I should have stepped in sooner. I didn't respond. He continued. But you were patient. Too patient. You gave and waited for someone to say thank you. He looked me dead in the eye. They never were going to. That hit harder than I expected. Because deep down, I think I'd always known it. I just didn't want to believe it. They treated you like a wallet, he added, not a son, not a brother. You earned everything you have. They just never respected the price you paid for it. We kept walking, slowly, until we reached his car. A black Lincoln, spotless as ever. He handed me the keys. They're yours now, he said. The house, too. The stocks. Everything. It's all under your name. I blinked. You're serious? I'm done waiting for them to change. Maybe now they'll realize who was holding the foundation together all along. I opened the driver's door but paused, leaning on the roof. What about Nathan? I asked quietly. Grandfather let out a tired laugh, bitter and sharp. Nathan's going to learn what legacy means the hard way. Let him build something of his own for once. I nodded, slid into the seat, and started the engine. The car purred to life. Smooth. Controlled. We drove in silence for a few blocks. I dropped him off at his condo, and as he stepped out, he put a hand on my shoulder. Whatever they say next, whatever guilt they try to throw back at you, don't forget this moment. You earned your peace. I watched him walk inside. Then I pulled away, one hand on the wheel, one hand tapping against my thigh. Later that night, I got an email from Nathan. Subject: this isn't over. No body. Just an attachment. I didn't open it. Instead, I deleted the entire thread and blocked his address. A few hours after that, our mother called. I let it ring out. Then came the voicemail. Her voice trembling like she'd rehearsed it a dozen times. I don't understand how you could do this. Your brother is devastated. He's drowning. How could you let him? How could you walk away like this? She paused. I miss you. We all do. Please, call me back. I didn't. I went outside, sat on the back deck of my apartment, and stared up at the stars. For the first time in years, they didn't feel out of reach. My phone was silent. My mind was still. No more money calls. No more fake emergencies. No more family meetings disguised as ambushes. Just space. Just peace. The legacy didn't belong to Nathan anymore. It wasn't built on charm or manipulation or family ties. It was mine now, and this time, it would stay that way. 2 weeks passed. 2 full, uninterrupted weeks. No missed calls. No guilt-laced voicemails. No surprise legal threats disguised as family conversations. I spent my mornings in silence, reading on the back deck, walking through the neighborhood with nothing but coffee in hand and no one expecting anything from me. Evenings, I cooked for myself. No frozen meals. No overpriced takeout. Just simple, quiet food. Things I hadn't made time for in years. It was the peace I didn't know I needed. The kind that didn't announce itself. It just showed up one day and didn't leave. Then, a name popped up on my phone, Callie. I stared at it. Decline. A minute later, a voicemail. I waited until the next morning to listen. Her voice was shaky, and for the first time, not performative. I broke up with Nathan. That got my attention. I couldn't do it anymore. I know that probably doesn't mean anything to you, but I thought you should hear it from me. She took a breath. He's spiraling, and honestly, I think I let it happen longer than I should have. I'm not asking you to fix anything. God, this is hard. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For being part of the mess. That was it. She hung up without a plea. No manipulation. Just a flat line of regret. I didn't call her back. Not out of anger. But because she was right, I wasn't her cleanup crew. And I wasn't Nathan's collateral anymore. That same afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Amelia, Callie's sister. Could we meet for coffee sometime? Just want to talk. Nothing weird, I promise. Amelia. I hadn't seen her in years, not since she'd quietly dropped out of law school and started volunteering at a shelter on the east side. We'd spoken once, years ago, when I'd anonymously donated to cover her rent after Nathan forgot to help her out during a rough patch. Back then, I did it without expecting anything. Now, she wanted to talk. I agreed. We met at a little cafe downtown, not the kind Nathan would have picked. No exposed brick, no overpriced drinks. Just real tables, regular mugs, and a chalkboard menu that hadn't changed in 10 years. She was already there when I walked in. Oliver, she said, standing. Thanks for coming. We sat down. No small talk. I just wanted to say, she began. I knew what was happening. Not everything, but enough. I saw the way they leaned on you. The way they talked about you when you weren't around. She paused, watching my face carefully. I didn't speak up. I told myself it wasn't my place. But it was. I took a sip of coffee. Didn't say anything yet. I'm sorry, she said. Those 2 words sat there between us, raw and real. I nodded slowly. I appreciate that, I said. She fidgeted with her sleeve. I'm not expecting anything. I just needed you to know. And honestly, she gave a sad smile. I needed to hear myself say it. I looked at her for a moment. She wasn't like the rest of them. Not hardened by entitlement or warped by dependency. Just someone who'd been close to the blast zone and lived to tell the truth. I don't need an apology, I said quietly. But I'm glad you said it. She exhaled. What now? I leaned back. Thought for a moment. I'm done, I said simply. No more family rescues. No more saving people who only call me when they're sinking. Her eyes met mine, serious now. Good. You deserve to live your life. Not theirs. We sat for a while longer. Talked about normal things, her new job at the shelter, my plans to invest in a community renovation project. Nothing heavy. Just 2 people trying to live better than the people they'd come from. When we finally stood, she hesitated. If you ever need anything, not money, I swear, just someone real, I'm around. I nodded. Thank you. That night, I sat with my grandfather in his study. He poured 2 glasses of scotch, the good kind he only opened for milestones. 2 endings, he said, raising his glass. To clarity, I replied. We clinked. For a long time, we just sat. No agenda. No pressure. Finally, he spoke. You know, when I rewrote that trust, it wasn't just about punishing Nathan. I looked at him. It was about protecting the one person in this family who understood that love doesn't come with strings attached or invoices. I didn't say anything. Just let the warmth of that truth settle. Later, when I got home, I left my phone on the counter and sat in the quiet. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for apologies or revenge. I was just done. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.